A forgiving heart, a manipulative monster, and a toxic friendship. Not only would this end in murder, but the crime scene would disturb first responders for the rest of their lives. While this case is solved, the victim's family continues to beg for answers to where the missing parts of her body can be found. You are such a genuine gem. Thank you for clicking on my video. I'm Brooke Makenna, but today's case is about Ashley Young and the horrors that were done to her by one of her friends. And it is just very, very tragic, but more importantly, there is still so much to do in this case because while there were convictions, there have not been confessions as to what actually happened to Ashley that day and where her remains are. We do have some of her remains, but things like her head have not been located, and she and her family deserves to be able to rest in peace, to just know where Ashley Young is. So I want to bring you this case today and bring more attention to her case and to her family's efforts to find her and to find more information really about the truth. You guys are always so supportive and kind of sponsors that help support this channel, and because of that, June's Journey is working with us once again, and it makes me so happy because it is seriously one of my favorite, if not my favorite, mobile app games. If you don't already know the magic that is this game, you get to be an amateur detective named June Parker who is trying to uncover the mystery in her family and solve her sister's murder. This is a thrilling fictional murder mystery where you are trying to uncover the hidden objects. It is also set in the glamorous 1920s and everything is so beautiful to look at. But if you're already a fan, then you can actually join the June's Journey community, which is on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. But you can seriously download this for free. Just click the link in my description or scan the QR code and you will get to experience just how amazing this game is, because I promise you will like it more than you even expect. So thanks to June's Journey for always sponsoring. Now let's get back to the video. So it was 2018 in Michigan, and Ashley Young was a 31-year-old living in Kalamazoo. Ashley herself was said to be a miracle because her mother had been told when she was a teenager that she wouldn't be able to ever have kids, and then she ended up having Ashley. And so it was truly a blessing that Ashley could even come into this world, and she was just a blessing herself when she did. You see, Ashley graduated from Grand Haven High School, and she was known to be this super sweet human. One of her favorite things was to ask her loved ones if she bought them a smile, if they would wear it. And she was always happy and positive. She saw the best in everyone. She had worked in a care home for those with special needs for a while, and at this point she was attending a community college while also working at the local bank. She was planning on moving into a new apartment and she was living a happy life. However, on November 30th, Ashley had planned to meet her mother at this new apartment complex where they were going to sign the lease. They were co-signing, and so they were going to meet up, get this done so Ashley could move in soon after. Now, her mother, Christine, claimed to have called her several times. This was not like Ashley to just not show up, and especially not to call her mother. And so this really made her mother fear for her safety. Now, Christine didn't know her daughter's whereabouts for earlier that day. However, she did know that the day prior, she had gone to see one of her friends, a boy called Jared Chance. So Christine actually obtained his phone number from another one of Ashley's friends and gave him a call. Now, this call went straight to voicemail, but she did know at that point, due to the voicemail, that this was Jared Chance. And so she ended up leaving a voicemail that said, "Hello, Jared. My name is Christine Young. I am looking for my daughter. She was last with you. Is she with you? She needs to contact me. Tell her I'm going to contact the police to do a missing person." Now, to her relief, Jared did end up responding, though only through text. He didn't call her. He let Christine know that the two of them had been together the night prior. They had gone to a hookah lounge as well as a nearby bar called the Mulligan's Bar in Grand Rapids, which was near his home. However, Jared claimed that Ashley was not currently with him anymore because she had woken up that morning and had said she needed to head back to work, and so she was going to head that way that morning. She had already left, and Jared said the reason why Christine probably couldn't get in contact with her was because she had lost her phone at the bar and was going back that morning to retrieve it before her drive. Jared was also mentioning that there was this guy that she could have been going to see named Demetrius. He ended up giving her mother a few numbers that he thought connected to Demetrius to see if Demetrius knew where Ashley was. Now, Christine immediately knew that something was wrong because Ashley did not have to work the day that Jared said she was needing to head into work. She had plans with her mother that day to co-sign for her apartment, and she had no shifts on that day. And so with still no contact from Ashley, Christine did decide to file a missing persons report that day. However, due to the fact that she was an adult, it made the process so much longer, and they had to wait a while before officially filing. But she was not going to wait for the police investigation to begin, especially because she had dialed all those numbers that Jared had given her, and she eventually got a hold of this Demetrius. Demetrius, though, immediately told Christine that he didn't know Ashley, nor was he with her. Now, while Christine headed to the Grand Rapids herself to be in the location where she believed that her daughter was last seen, she ended up calling Jared back and asking him why Demetrius was denying even knowing Ashley. And Jared really was said to go silent after that. He refused to answer her questions, and then he refused to answer her calls or texts at all. Now, arriving in Grand Rapids, Christine immediately went to the bar and she asked the owner for the surveillance footage of November 29th, the night that they were said to be there. And sure enough, that night, Ashley was seen with Jared walking into the bar. They had shown up pretty late in the night and they left about the early morning hours, and they did leave together. Now, the bartender was named Emily, and when Christine spoke to her, Emily said that she had seen the two of them together, and Ashley showed no signs of distress and nothing extraordinary was noted about them. Ashley was seen in this footage drinking a couple of tequilas. She didn't finish her last one, and Jared was drinking beer, and then they left and everything seemed okay. Now, later that morning, Jared was seen returning to the pub, though this time he was alone. Now, on December 2nd, Christine contacted the police in Grand Rapids where she believed her daughter disappeared, and this was 2, possibly 3 days since Ashley had last been seen, but any possible surveillance footage from around the area was obtained by police at this point to try to see if they could figure out where these two had gone, if they had stopped anywhere else before potentially going back to Jared's place that night, or just any sort of location, any sort of clue that they could gather from the footage. Now, there was this nearby party store called Miss Tracy's, and the surveillance footage there showed that after Ashley and Jared had left the pub in those early morning hours, they had stopped in at this store, and that was before Jared would return to the pub alone. So they had gone there together and they left that store together as well. But this is the last time Ashley was seen on any sort of footage in the area. It was also found that when Jared returned to the pub on his own, he had bought the beer with his card. That could be traced. Now, he then went back to the same party store, that Miss Tracy's store, that he had previously gone to with Ashley. Except for this time, he was still alone and he threw away a garbage bag that he had with him and with unknown items inside. He also paid in cash for ammonia. Now, the same day that Christine had let the police know that this was happening and they had begun to search, they had also received a 911 call and were dispatched to a home in Grand Rapids. You see, this was at 922 Franklin Street, and a man claimed that at his apartment complex there was a foul smell coming from the basement for a few days. Now, he shared this basement with his roommate, who also lived in this building. Basically, they each had a floor and then they shared the basement together. He said that it was normally locked, but he found another route so he could inspect what was actually happening. But this caller would tell the operator that he had gone inside and found a bloody tarp, and thankfully he didn't look too close and immediately called the police. Now, when police were dispatched to the scene, a Mario Nelson greeted them. Now, Mario was the neighbor, and he would inform them that there was a 30-year-old man who also lived with him named Jared Chance. He also knew that a woman had been with Jared between November 29th and December 1st. He had seen this woman, and Mario had also been asked by Jared to help him get into the car of this woman that was in their driveway. And he really didn't elaborate on why, that he just wanted to get the car out of the driveway. And he ended up doing so. The car was not there at that time. With a quick search of the neighborhood, they actually found the car that he was describing a few blocks away. And this was the same vehicle that Ashley was known to drive. Now, as police entered the basement, officers came upon what Mario had described. There was a bloody tarp, and it appeared as though something was wrapped up in it, with the blood leaking out. And body cam footage would actually document this time period where officers would come upon the horror, and they moved closer with their flashlights. And that is when one of the officers said that he saw skin. And so everybody was forced out so that they could basically cordon off the area for a crime scene, but also get a search warrant to be able to do all this legally if this really was a body. Before they could enter the residence or fully look under this tarp, they needed that search warrant. And so once it was given, the crime unit supervisor named Karen Curtis led the group and entered the home that belonged to, well, that was rented out by Jared Chance and Mario Nelson. But they would start in the basement, and so officers would pull open the tarp to find a human torso. However, it was simply the torso. It was missing the limbs as well as the head. The rest of the basement was sifted through to see if the other body parts were around that area, and instead they found a blade that they believed could have been used, but no other body parts at that point. 22 caliber shell casings were also allegedly found inside, and they believed this also could be a murder weapon. So since Jared lived on the second floor, they rushed up the stairwell and would see what appeared to be bloodstains on those stairs. And at the top, they would see a cardboard box, which was labeled Jared Chance, and inside would be other body parts that were the limbs of a human. The arms and lower legs of presumably the person that the torso belonged to in the basement were found at the top of the stairs. And in the upstairs bathroom, there appeared to be even more blood. And then they went on the back porch of this home, and a garbage bag was found containing a bathtub drain cover, an ammonia bottle, latex gloves, 2 saw blades, plastic wrap, and a boot, as well as pants that had Jared's name on them with reddish-brown staining. After a thorough search of this home, the missing remaining body parts, such as the hands, the feet, the neck, and the head, could not be located anywhere.
Okay, the tarp is laying on the stairs, about the last 3 stairs.
Come on down. Hands on top of your head.
We're gonna call him right into that kitchen.
What's your name? What's your last name? Your Chance? He's not been searched.
He is not?
No.
Okay. Putting the seatbelt around you, alright?
You put the seatbelt on when you get it back there, that's fine.
Alright.
Jared Chance would immediately be charged with the mutilation of a dead body and concealing a death. He would eventually be charged with murder, but at this point, that is all he was charged with. And the body parts that were found were sent in for DNA testing, and they were found to be Ashley Young.
You need to take just for a sec? We'll get your cuffs off, okay? Alright.
Want me to take them off, the cuffs? Or?
Yeah. You gonna be decent with us?
Yeah.
Okay. Alright.
You gotta stay busy, don't you?
Huh?
You gotta stay busy, don't you?
Pretty much.
We appreciate the fact that you came in earlier, and I'm sorry you got turned away.
Yeah, no, I just came in just because I read on Facebook that the last person this person was with was me, so I was just concerned and trying to get some information about it, but my dad just recommended me to just ask for the advice of attorney, and because I don't really know what the hell's going on, so I don't want to sit here and talk about shit that may incriminate me or whatever in any kind of way, because I don't know what's going on. So I just don't want to say nothing right now.
The medical examiner would rule Ashley's cause of death as homicide by unspecific means. However, Jared Chance would not be the only person arrested in this case. You see, in December of 2018, his father, James, was interrogated by the police after Jared's arrest. And he was saying that Jared dumped parts of Ashley's body in trash cans around the area. Police had heard all of his statements, and they believed that he was omitting details about what he knew in order to hinder the investigation. And obviously that is a crime. And so both of Jared's parents were then charged with lying to prosecutors and helping their son cover up murder. Jared's parents, who were James and Barbara, were believed to have attempted to hide Ashley's body for him or with him. Their home was searched after Jared was arrested, and that December 5th, officers found a saw under their couch, which had Ashley's tissue on it and was believed to be what was used to dismember her. They also found a washcloth with blood on it in their basement. Now, surveillance footage found in the area of Jared's home to his parents' home recorded Barbara going to pick James up at his apartment after the murder, or presumably when the murder occurred, and they loaded the boxes into the car. When his parents' car was actually examined, they also found human blood and tissue inside. Also inside was the ammonia from Miss Tracy's party store, as well as latex gloves. Now, these items were found December 5th, but before they could officially be arrested, these parents walked into the police department on December 12th and were booked immediately, but then were bonded out, so they didn't spend much time in jail. And interestingly enough, that's when it came out that Jared's father, James, was a former Illinois police officer. But his son Jared had a criminal record. He was a fourth habitual offender, and since he was a teen, he was getting in trouble for stuff like shoplifting, underage drinking, driving offenses, possession of illegal substances, and he was known to be very wild and have violent outbursts often. In 2010, he was arrested for breaking into his ex-girlfriend's home, and then the next year his parents called the police because he was so volatile and he was in his drunken rage at their home and they needed help. Then in 2013, he had gone to a friend of his and he had broken into their home and stolen all of their belongings and sold it. This was none other than Ashley Young. Now in 2016, his brother, Conrad, his younger brother, ended up calling the police on him because he was threatening him for stealing his weed. So his younger brother had stolen this from him, and so Jared was threatening to kill him, and Conrad was terrified. But that same year, Jared actually had overdosed on all of the drugs that he was doing, and he was resuscitated. By 2017, Jared did move from his parents' home to his own place, but he wasn't really doing much better. However, Ashley had forgiven him for what he had done to her a few years prior, and she was just such a forgiving heart. She wanted to help him out, and really his addiction was something that she felt like she could heal, she could fix. And so that is when they got closer, and she was helping him. But only the next year, he would become her killer. Now, while awaiting trial, Ashley's mother, Christine, had gone to the jail where Jared was staying and requested a visit with him to speak to him about the whereabouts of the rest of Ashley's body and just what exactly happened that day, and he completely refused. On January 4th, 2019, Jared was officially charged with murder and mutilation of a body. Now, September 2019, his trial began, even though he had been offered a plea deal with the chance of parole if he would just give the whereabouts of the missing body parts. But he didn't do that. He pled not guilty to all of the charges and wanted to go to trial. Now, the prosecutor in this trial believed that Jared had killed Ashley on the floor of his apartment kitchen with blunt force trauma or possibly a gunshot wound, moved her to the bathtub, and then dismembered her. Though even the prosecutor admitted that the official cause of death couldn't be determined due to her missing body parts, especially the head was essential in knowing the actual cause of death. But Jared's defense attorney was saying that he was dumb, but was not a murderer. Now, the testimonies in this case were a bit wild, and Jared's neighbor and the 911 caller, Mario, would testify that he spoke to Jared several times before that day. You know, they lived just a floor apart, and he had even let Ashley in that November. She had knocked on the front door, and he had told her that Jared was upstairs, so he knew she was there. Later that day, Jared actually called down to Mario to ask him if he wanted to smoke with them upstairs, and he did so. Mario claimed that nothing was necessarily different about that day, but once in the past, Jared had mentioned that he knew how to get away with killing someone, and that if he was in the position to have to get rid of someone, he knew what he would need to do to get rid of things like blood and fingerprints. Mario claimed that Jared was often playing with his .22 caliber revolver, and he felt very unsafe being around his neighbor. And that revolver that was spoken about, that many people saw, that the shell casings were actually found in the home as well, has not been seen since then. Now, the bartender from the pub that night, that Emily, testified that there was nothing to make her think that anything was happening or that this girl would go missing. There was no red flags, no signs, at least that she picked up on. But on the second day of the testimony, crime scene technicians then took the stand, and they announced that they had located the garbage bag that Jared had thrown away in that Miss Tracy's store, and that inside were Ashley's belongings. So there were things like her ID, her medicine with her name on it, a pair of jeans stained with blood. Ashley's hoodie was also found in a nearby dumpster, covered in blood. During this time, the crime scene technicians went over exactly what body parts were found where, which is why we know about that gruesome crime scene. They had to show photos to the jury to show how horrible it really was in there. Now, Jared's friend Demetrius, the man Jared had told Ashley's mother to call that day, he took the stand as well. And Demetrius had photo proof of Jared asking him to lie to Ashley's mother about being with her, and that they were together at that time, that she had nothing to worry about. And Demetrius said that he had never even met Ashley and refused to lie. Now, Jared's brother Conrad would tell the most about what happened that day out of anyone. He said that on December 2nd, the day of the 911 call, he and his parents had drove to Jared's home and loaded a cardboard box with a big black bag in it.
Conrad Shan said he could not remember a lot of things about the incidents of early December when he says his brother, his parents, and he drove back and forth between Holland and the house on the east side of Grand Rapids where Ashley's remains were found. It was December 1st when the family made the trip from Barbara and James' home in Holland to the house on Franklin, where police believe Young was shot and dismembered.
Did you and your dad help your brother load some things into the Holland?
Yes.
Now, as soon as they had made it back to the parents' home, which was in Holland, that is when Jared would take something out of the back and take it to their fire pit. Now, this wasn't the whole thing, but he allegedly burned it. And then he came to Conrad, told him what he had done, and Conrad said that this is the most upset that he had ever seen Jared. Conrad said that Jared then told their parents, and they all drove back home crying, and then Jared moved the cardboard box back into his apartment.
Conrad looked at a picture of the box that allegedly held the limbs of Ashley Young.
Did that box get loaded into the back of the Honda?
Yes.
After that,
We drove around and we're looking. We went to Ashley's car. We moved the stuff that we had put in the Honda back into the landing area of the stairs that lead up to his apartment.
Now, like I said, this is pretty much the most that we have ever gotten out of this family, out of this killer, as to what happened at all. But we still don't know what happened that led up to this beautiful girl's murder. And so this is something that has angered her family so very deeply, and they actually got to get up and make impact statements at the trial, and also directly to Jared. And Ashley's mother, Christine's statements are just bone-chilling and powerful.
You had no right to take her from me. I cry 7 days a week. 7! This is what's left of my daughter. If I want a hug, I have to hug a box and close my eyes and pretend that she is hugging me back. Do you remember texting me? I would never do anything to hurt her. I swear on my life. Do you remember that? Do you? Ashley was already dead and dismembered when you text that to me. I hate you. I want to rip you limb from limb and discard you like trash. Like what you did to Ashley.
Did she suffer? Was she crying for help? Did you ignore her asking to be saved? My heart just aches and has been ripped out. The pain is so unbearable ever since that day.
Ashley's father then told Jared,
all I can say is, may you rot in hell.
After 3 hours of deliberation, Jared Chance was found guilty of second-degree murder, mutilation, and concealing the body of Ashley Young. He showed no emotion, and on October 10th, he was actually sentenced to a minimum of 100 years and a maximum of 200 years.
The sentence is concluded. Take him to prison, please.
Now, he will not be eligible for parole until he's 130 years old. Ashley's family seemed to be content with that sentence, that he would never be getting out, but also at the same time, they shouldn't have had to be going through that. And as far as Jared's parents, well, in January of 2020, Barbara, his mother, pled no contest and didn't end up going to trial. James, his father, pled not guilty and headed to trial. James' son, so Jared's brother Conrad, testified against his father, saying that his dad knew what Jared did before the police did. He also mentioned that after their road trip back from their home, that they had all gone to the police station to take Jared there. And James had gone up to one of the officers and told them that his son was there to talk about a missing person. At this point, the police department knew that Ashley Young was missing because they had spoken to her mother at this point. However, like I said, she was an adult, so they couldn't officially report her missing or start the search. So at this point, when they had gone into the police station, the search had not begun. So the officers were saying, "You're talking about Ashley Young," and they were saying, "Yes, but..." At this point, when they tried to talk further to Jared, James said no, he needs to talk to an attorney. The police were saying that's not necessary. We have no authority to detain him at this point. We're just going to get a statement from him. But James then said, "This is your only chance. You're going to let him leave?" And at that point, they left. And later that day is when the tarp was found. It was believed, after hearing this, that the father, James, was trying to delay the search further by demanding this lawyer, by going through all these loops with the police department while the body still hadn't been found. Because remember, he was a former police officer himself. So they believed in their gut, between the questioning of the mother and father after Jared was arrested and between talking to them before he was arrested, them knowing about what had occurred, but also not confessing that up front to the officers they were talking to. They believed in all of that, that these parents deserved some jail time and deserved to be punished for their role in Ashley's cover-up. So James was actually sentenced to a month in jail for being an accessory after the fact, and Barbara was sentenced to 45 days in jail for perjury and for being an accessory after the fact. They were going to do it staggered so that they could be home, one at a time to take care of Conrad. But after their sentences, they were both going to serve 1 year of probation, though they didn't even serve their full sentences in the end. Barbara was said to end up only serving 29 days and James 14. Do you believe that they had more to do with this cover-up, that they knew a lot more than they were letting on? Parents not being very forthcoming with information. I think that was a huge part of why they ended up being charged. But in 2021, Jared Chance actually appealed his sentence, but it was denied.
I just wanted to hear from you, give you a chance.
I really can't say much, but I don't even really know what to say.
Well, what happened to Ashley Young?
I can't even talk about it.
You can't talk about it because you're so emotional, or?
I just can't, well, that too, but, yeah.
She just wants to bring the rest of her baby home. There are pieces of her that are missing. Where is she? Her daughter is gone. Can you just give her some kind of peace and just tell her where she is?
I'd love to give her some kind of peace, I really would, but I don't know what to do here. This situation is, I don't know what to do.
What
I don't know what to say or do.
What happened? You were friends with Ashley? She seemed like a lovely girl,
Yeah.
a bright girl.
She was, yeah. I don't know.
What went wrong? Were there drugs
Nothing.
involved? Well, something went wrong because her body was found in pieces. You can't bring
I don't know what to do.
You can't bring Ashley back, but you can give her mother some peace. She wants to lay her daughter to rest. And
I want to give her that too. But
well, do it.
I can't do this. I can't do this. I'm sorry, I can't do this. I'm sorry, Ashley's mom. I apologize, I can't do this right now.
Do you have anything else to say to Ashley's mom?
But Ashley Young's friends and family have protested outside of the Chance residence because they believe that James' parents knew everything that was happening, and they also know where the rest of her body is. They believe that during that road trip that the family had taken from their house and back, that along there, Ashley was disposed of, or something was done with her body, and that only they know where she is.
They know. The parents know something. There are people out there that know something. I just want my baby. I want her to come home. Please. I need help finding her. I need help finding her. I do. I really do. I want her home. Ashley no longer has a voice, and I have to be her voice.
What do you want to say to the Chances, who are now out on bond? What do you want to say to them?
You don't deserve to be out. You need to be behind bars with your son. You knew. You said you turned him in. You did not turn him in, because if you had, common sense would tell everybody that they would have arrested him at that time. You did not call the police because the police would have gone there and they would have checked. You know what he did. You knew about it. And you did nothing. And I believe that with every fiber of my being. Barbara, as a mother, your son is still breathing, and my daughter is not. You need to talk. My daughter was smart. She was beautiful. She was kind. To a fault. Thinking she could save people. Everybody has good, Mom. Everybody has good. No. Some people don't. Some people don't have good.
Do you think that's what happened here?
I know without a doubt. That is exactly what happened.
And as of 2023, no one has spoken about where the rest of her remains are. What confuses me is that Conrad seems to be a bit more open with what they had done that day, and he didn't mention any pit stops, any other locations where Ashley could have been found. Was he told he needs to stay quiet? Did he not know? Was this done without him? There's so much we don't know about that day, about that night. Ashley was a wonderful friend who had been stolen from and betrayed, and still forgave in order to help out and be a good friend. And this is how she was treated. It angers me so much in this case that Jared not only refuses to even really acknowledge Ashley, but that he can't just say what he did, even if he didn't say why. He can't just say what he did and give than the location. It would truly be just as simple as that, but he truly seems to have zero remorse for what he has done. The anger that his mother especially showed when she spoke to him in court is one of the most incredible amounts of strength I've ever seen. She's devastated, obviously, but to be able to have that strength to go up there and to tell her daughter's killer just how she thought, it touched my heart so much. And that's actually how I came about this case, was hearing that impact statement. And I just knew that Ashley Young and her family deserves to have more coverage. I just want to get the word back out, and hopefully we can put more pressure on the family members who are now out of jail to say something, because that's all we have. But her family is doing everything in their power, and they also have a Facebook page called Justice for Ashley Young. I will have linked down below, because they are still fighting for answers. And so please keep them in your thoughts. But more than anything, just spread this case, because I think the more pressure that is put on these people to do the right thing, the more likely they are to do it, if they know. I have this strong gut feeling that they do. I think if Conrad knows, we can get him to talk more than anyone else. And I don't know how old Conrad is, so he might still be underage, and maybe that's why he can't really say much, because he still is in the custody of his parents. I'm not sure his age. He was younger than Jared. But I just think it's so important to keep these cases alive when these people do these horrific things, or they try to cover up these horrific things, or they try to just make it go away. And they leave these people not only devastated without a loved one, but they leave them without answers. They leave them constantly wondering why can't we just have our daughter to put her to rest? That's cruel. That is evil. This is for Ashley. I'm sorry you were taken that day. I'm sorry that because you had a forgiving heart and a kind soul, that soul was ripped apart. And Jared did not deserve you as a friend. And I wish that you could have been surrounded by people who cared about you like you cared about others. And don't forget to download June's journey with the link in my description, or scanning the QR code for free. So don't forget to speak up. Your voice is powerful enough, and I love you to absolute pieces. Okay. Bye.